When you talk about the uncertainty, the inability to infer structure, I can see in the aftermath of the crisis, people are very, very concerned about the United States' relationship with China. I think the U.S.-China relationship may be at the center of some of that uncertainty about what the future foretells or holds for us all.
I think that's right. I think it's certainly at the center of any monetary deal that may be struck, that needs to be struck. But there's in other words of a second Bretton Woods, but it's not on the cards yet. And I think this is where we have to work on the intellectual structure of such a deal, because the two sides are fairly far apart. They both accuse each other of manipulating currencies, and they both say the onus of adjustment should fall on the other. This is a repeat, of things that really did happen, debates in the 1930s, which led up to the first Bretton Woods and to Keynes's plan to shift the onus of adjustment from the debtor to the creditor.
Yes.
And I think his scheme was immensely imaginative. The Keynes plan, it had a new international reserve currency. It had penalties on surpluses, both surplus and debtor countries, to reduce their surpluses and debts and deficits. And it was rejected by the United States. And what there was a compromise which left the dollar as the main reserve currency. It did have fixed but adjustable rates, which eventually broke down because a national reserve currency, a single national reserve currency, it destroys credibility in the currency sooner or later. Because you have to run a deficit in order to provide the world, with liquidity, yes. And so we're back to this problem of how to deal with a system in which there is, I would call it symmetric non-adjustment.
Yes,
it's just blocked.
Yeah. And in the United States case, because it's the reserve currency, there's nothing that forces it to curtail its deficits.
Nothing that forces it, exactly, to curtail its deficits, to curtail its spending. You see, under the gold standard, if China had been accumulating reserves to the extent it has, that is, hoarding gold, and the United States had wanted to remain on the gold standard, then it would have had to have raised interest rates to try and get back, some of the money that was flowing out. But now it doesn't have to do that. It can do the reverse because, of course, the Chinese surpluses are partly invested in treasury. They're recycled. And that gives rise to a boom in the United States, which, from one point of view, can be regarded simply as an example of a Hayekian crisis developing, over credit, leading to malinvestment, leading to collapse. But from a global point of view, is a saving investment problem. And so I don't think the opposition between Keynes and Hayek on this point is fundamental, although, of course, the protagonists of both sides say it is.